an institutional commodity. We recognize the cracks in your facade. We don't believe in your patriarchal God. I wanna free all humanity. I don't wanna be a political prisoner. I wanna free all humanity. I don't wanna be a political prisoner. I wanna free all humanity. I don't wanna be a political prisoner. I wanna free all humanity. I don't wanna be another fucking prisoner. Amnesty is an inherently defeatist position to take, one that is contingent upon surrender in order for prisoners of war to be released.
Good evening. It is Friday, February the 28th, 2014, and you're listening to UCY.TV. This is the Liberty Battles radio show, and I am your host, Alex Allen. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening to UCY.TV for the Liberty Battles radio show. I come at you live here for the show every Monday and Friday at the same time, right here on UCY and only here on UCY. 9 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, and 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific Time. And pretty much talk about everything on the show. Talk about news, politics, the culture, just pretty much everything. We go over all kinds of different stuff, always have some interesting topics to talk about, to go over on the show, and tonight's show, of course, is no different. I have a whole bunch of articles, whole bunch of documents, whole bunch of all kinds of different stuff I would like to I'd like to go over this evening with you. I've got some Homeland Security, sort of security state kind of news and information and some documents I'd like to talk about. Of course, I want to follow up on the whole Arizona situation with that supposed anti-gay bill and the whole slew of things with that and all that good stuff. I want to follow up on that situation, and I want to give my analysis of that whole thing there. And I want to get into a little bit of this weather and how that can tie into being prepared. I want to talk a little bit about preparedness on the show tonight. So that's all that's going to happen on the show. All right. Are you ready? Are you pumped? I'm pumped. I'm excited. Well, finally it's Friday. I mean, I'm super excited that it's Friday. I mean, what a week. What a week this has been. Excuse me, I was having some technical difficulties there with my audio. All right, what a week this has been, though. I mean, for me personally, I've just had one hell of a week just making it, just getting from day to day. And I think we all have those sort of weeks and sort of those days and those moments in our life when we ponder our own existence. Gonna get deep and philosophical tonight. No. All right. Well, first of all, before I get into the show tonight, I want to encourage all of you to go check out all of my social media, all my great stuff across the World Wide Web. You can first of all check me out over at Facebook.com/Liberty Battles. Again, that's Facebook.com/Liberty Battles. That's one of my primary Facebook pages, one of my primary pages for all my alternative and independent media work. You can go check it out over there, give it a like. I'd also encourage you to go give the Alternative Journalism Facebook page a like. That's Facebook.com/Alternative Journalism. I also admin over there, post a lot of my articles and content over there as well. And so yeah, I definitely encourage you to go give that a like. You can also follow me on Twitter in a couple of places. I'm on Twitter at @AAllen845. Again, that's at @AAllen845. You can also follow me on Twitter at Liberty Battles. Those are my two Twitter accounts. And the AAllen845 account is more of just a sort of a personal account. But of course I tweet out all of my articles and all my writing, all my content and stuff like that over there as well. But I also, that's more of a personal account. I just tweet random stuff and cut up some and try to be, hilarious. over there, because we all know Twitter is just wonderful for wannabe comedians. But anyway, you can follow me on there, and then you can also follow me. The @Liberty Battles account is more of just a strictly serious news information account. I tweet out a lot of links to articles, links to videos, links to all kinds of different stuff over there, so you can go give that a follow as well. If you're a news junkie, if you want to get I try to update that one frequently. I just don't have the time. I need to get some sort of automated tweet thing going. I need to get some sort of something going. But I just don't have time, folks, to do all of this stuff. I got this radio show. I'm trying to write articles, working another part-time job on the side in addition to developing my writing career. I mean, I'm just so swamped with stuff to do. But anyway, enough of my pity party. Let's get into some of this information. If I can get my darn mixer to cooperate with me this evening. I'm having some technical issues with my mixer, and it's not on your end. You're not going to be able to hear it, but it's bugging the crap out of me. I got this buzzing right in my ear from my headphones, and it is just bugging the crap out of me, and I'm not going to be able to concentrate and give you an awesome show until I fix it. Okay, I think that's fixed. All right, let's get into this. First of all, I want to talk about this. I want to follow up on this whole Arizona thing, the Arizona anti-gay rights, et cetera, that whole thing that was going on, that has been going on for a little while now. I wrote an article. I wrote a little piece for it, an opinion piece on the subject for the New Cultural Narrative, which, if you don't already know, I have sort of a half blog, half developing into a news site sort of thing going on. Over at newculturalnarrative.blogspot.com. I'd encourage you to go check that out, and I trying to update that frequently with some articles from myself and articles from other different sources of news. And I've also got some people who are interested in contributing articles regularly to that site, and they're going to be hopefully coming on as regular contributors over there as well. So all kinds of cool stuff happening over there. But anyway, I wrote an article the other day over this whole thing. And I want to kind of give you my analysis of the situation. I talked a little bit about it on last week's show, but I want to kind of break it down now that it has passed. Because those of you who don't know, the Arizona the Arizona governor actually vetoed it. The Arizona governor already vetoed it a couple of days ago, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, what I am talking about is this. It was a bill that would allow basically business owners to discriminate against gay people on a religious basis. You know, you could if a guy owned a business and didn't want to serve a gay person on the basis of you know their religious views, they have problems with homosexuality with gay people because of their religious views. They don't have to serve them, and then that's what this bill said, and that's what would have been made into law had this bill passed. But of course, as I just said, the governor vetoed it. But let's just break down the situation. First of all, I want to show you just how this is being played up in the media. I mean, they're acting like the media is acting like this is an apocalypse. And then I want to get into my analysis of the situation and why I think both sides of the mainstream argument are absolutely just blowing things way out of proportion. I know that's a huge surprise that the Democrats and the Republicans, the conservatives and the liberals, the left and the right, they're blowing things out of proportion once again. You know, for popularity, sensationalizing things. Again, I know that's a huge surprise, but anyway, first of all, I just want to read you some of these headlines that just scrolling through, some of the headlines from different news sources on this particular subject, and they're all basically, they all basically say the same thing. They're sensationalizing the whole thing. Let's see. USA Today, thousands try to sway Arizona governor on anti-gay bill. Again, that from USA Today. Anti-gay laws from The Economist. Arizona anti-gay bill vetoed by governor. Chicago Tribune. Arizona Governor Jan Brewer vetoes controversial anti-gay bill, SB 1062, CNN. Arizona Governor vetoes controversial anti-gay religious freedom bill, Yahoo News. After Arizona, 5 other states considering anti-gay laws, ABC News. And I want to get into that a little bit too, because that is, some other states are considering some different things. But anyway, the point is that it's being blown up in the media as, oh, this is just an anti-gay rights bill. This is against gay rights. It's a very conservative bill. It's outdated ideals and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And really it's not. It's not an anti-gay bill at all. And I want to kind of explain that, and what better way to do that than to just read you some or perhaps all of what I had to say in my article, and then I'm going to go in a little bit deeper on that and break that down, and then of course I'll be getting into some other news and information here on the show tonight as well. People on all ends of the ideological spectrum are up in arms over a piece of legislation in Arizona that, if signed into law, would allow business owners to openly discriminate against and deny service to homosexuals for religious reasons. And of course, we're seeing the usual political theater. The right-wing Republicans are being portrayed as the intolerant, bigoted, Bible Belt Christian conservatives, while the left-wing Democrats are being portrayed as the pro-gay, human rights-supporting hippies. Nothing new to see here, right? Despite the typical mainstream left-right narrative, there is something a little different about this particular piece of legislation. This new proposal touches on a very thin and very sensitive line between human rights and property rights, which is why I believe both sides are blowing things way out of proportion. Oh, what's that? The Republicans and Democrats are lacking in logic and reason and are sensationalizing things? What a shocker. First of all, I want to go on the record as saying that I am completely supportive of gay rights. Because of my libertarian belief that the government should have absolutely nothing to do with marriage, I have no problem with gays getting married or having civil unions or doing whatever they want. Even on a personal note, I don't have any problems with gay people. I'm a pretty tolerant person, and to me, homosexuality is just another meaningless characteristic like the color of someone's skin or hair. Unfortunately, however, some people don't see it that way. Some people don't like gay people because they don't like what they stand for. They see homosexuality as an abomination, a sin, and an open mockery of core traditional values. While I wholeheartedly disagree with people who are so vehemently against homosexuality, and while I believe they should be more open-minded and tolerant of their fellow human beings, I also understand that they have the right to believe what they believe. What they also have a right to is their property. And regardless of whether or not people would like to think of businesses as public areas, they do fall under the category of private property. That being said, if someone were to come to my home and I didn't want them there, I would have the right to kick them off my property. And if they didn't comply, I could call the police and have them removed for trespassing. There's no law that says I have to let people in my home to prevent discrimination against people of a certain sexual orientation or even races and genders. So why should it be any different with businesses? And I continue on. If I owned a restaurant, that would be my restaurant. It wouldn't be a public property. Of course, I would want and encourage people to come onto my property so that they could exchange money for the food I would be serving. Still, no one but myself would have an actual right to be there, just like no one but myself would have the right to be at my home. So I technically have the right to serve or not serve anyone I want. In fact, if I wanted to put a sign on the front door of my restaurant that read, "No gays or Jews," I would be within my rights to do so. Now, obviously, I wouldn't do that for a multitude of reasons. For one, I'm not a bigoted jerk, and again, I don't care about petty things like skin color, religion, or sexual orientation. Even if I were a bit bigoted, however, I still wouldn't put up a sign like that because it would be bad for business. I would at least have enough sense as a business person to hide my own intolerance and bigotry in order to attract more customers. So since I agree with the idea of business owners being able to choose who they serve, one would think I would automatically be in favor of this new Arizona bill. But I'm not. Why? Well, for one, I don't think we need any more laws telling us that we have the right to do something we already have the right to do. We already have a right to our own property. To make this an official law would be the same as passing a law that says we have the right to wear green shirts. Well, of course we have the right to wear green shirts. That goes without saying. But the primary reason why I am against this bill being made into law is the fact that it sends the wrong message. To pass such a law would suggest that we as a society are okay with discrimination and bigotry. And while I support a person's right to be a bigot in legal terms, I don't think we need to be promoting it. In fact, I would strongly oppose any business that openly discriminated against someone because of their sexual orientation, religion, skin color, ethnicity, or any other similar characteristic, because it simply isn't right. So to sum up my views on the issue, I'm definitely against discrimination, but I don't think it's an issue that needs to be legislated when it comes to private businesses and private property. Because whether you like it or not, the people who don't support your rights have rights too. And again, that is an article that I wrote for the New Cultural Narrative. That was the article in its entirety. The article on newculturalnarrative.blogspot.com. And I keep saying this. I am working on transitioning things over. I still need to purchase the domain name, but it will be without the Blogspot part before too long. Within the next couple of months, I hope to have it without the Blogspot part, and it's going to be on an official registered domain. But anyway, for now, you can find it over at newculturalnarrative.blogspot.com. So anyway, I want to just kind of break down what I just read to you. So basically, that last sentence, the last sentence I wrote in the article sums it all up. I'm against discrimination on a personal level, but I don't think it needs to be legislated when it comes to private businesses, because obviously we're dealing with a multitude of rights here, you know, and you're dealing, as I said earlier in the article, you're dealing with a fine line between individual rights and property rights, or between, you know, social rights and property rights. And the fact of the matter is, whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not, the fact of the matter is, a business is private property. You know, as I said, if I owned a restaurant, I own that business. You know, I own the property, I own the building, or maybe I'm renting it, but, you know, let's just say I own it. You know, I own the property, I own the business, I own all the assets, I own everything in it. You know, if someone comes onto my property, I shouldn't have to serve them, you know, just because there's a law that, you know, just because we have this collective idea that, there shouldn't be discrimination. Now again, I wouldn't do it, and I wouldn't encourage people to do it. And in fact, if this were an open, legitimate thing in society right now, where business owners, were openly discriminating against gay people, or against, against Muslims, against, Christians, against Jews, against, openly discriminating against atheists, openly discriminating against black people, or Mexicans, or, you know, whatever. If a business was openly discriminating against people for whatever reason, any of those superficial reasons, I would not support that business. I wouldn't shop there. I wouldn't do my business there. I would not engage in it. I would be against it. I would protest against it. I would boycott that business, because that's wrong. You shouldn't do that. But that being said, we don't need to legislate it, because it's still, whether we like it or not, it's still their right. They might not agree with your rights. They might not agree that you have the right to be yourself, or to be, to engage in these activities, that you engage in, whether they be homosexual in nature, or, or religious in nature, whatever you're doing, whatever the basis is for the discrimination. They may not believe that you have the right to do this, but they still have their own rights. And that's just natural law. If you're going to support individual rights, if you're going to support civil rights, basic human rights, you have to support them across the board, or else you become inconsistent. And that's my view. That's why I'm so libertarian anarcho-capitalist, because I like being consistent in my ideology. I like being completely consistent. If I say one thing here, I'm going to say another thing in another place. That's why I am just as much a proponent of gay rights as I am of gun rights. That's why I think we need to legalize drugs, and on the same note, I think everyone should be able to own an AR-15 with as big of a magazine as they want. I'm for civil liberties and civil rights. Basic human rights, individual rights, property rights, the whole 9 yards. I don't think government has a spot, and I don't think the collective has a spot to step in and say you can't do some of these things just because they're controversial, just because a collective decides that it's wrong. Yeah, I agree. I agree bigotry is wrong. I agree discrimination is wrong. I agree all of this is wrong. And again, on a personal level, I would boycott these businesses if they were openly discriminating against anyone for any reason. But, again, that being said, it's still their right. And we don't need some law saying that it is or isn't, because it's a basic right. So anyway, going back to the situation there at hand, the media is playing it up as, this is just the worst thing to happen to the gay community. This is, just terrible. Well, what about the countries, folks, where it's actually illegal, it's actually against the law to even be gay, to even engage in homosexual activities? Don't you think the gay rights people should be standing up for, standing up against that more than they should be, giving businesses the right to let people to deny service to someone? I'd be a little more pissed about, publicly the government saying that it's illegal to engage in homosexual activity. Then they should be about, that's just me though. That's just me. That's just me. I think, I guess I'm just weird like that. But anyway, so that's my analysis of the situation. If you want to reread that article I wrote, again, it's titled "Does New Arizona Bill Promote Discrimination Against Gays?" and that's from newculturalnarrative.blogspot.com. And of course, the article was written before the bill was vetoed, and of course, it has since been vetoed. Which I'm indifferent about that. About it being vetoed, because on one hand, it was vetoed for the wrong reasons. It needed to be vetoed because it didn't even need to be a law in the first place, because it's already a natural right. But of course, it was vetoed because the collective decided that we have to support this idea that we can't allow businesses to do this. That we can't allow businesses to do this, and that's just a messed up way of thinking. So there we have it, folks. All right, I want to switch gears here, and before I yak about this for the rest of the show, because of course I could blabber about just about anything for the entire show. I could do an entire show on just about any topic, but I want to get some more topics in tonight. So I will try to move on here. Well, first I want to talk about, when we get towards the end of the show, I want to take a little bit of time to talk about preparedness. Because many of you know we've got a big ice storm coming here in the Ohio Valley, which is actually where I broadcast from. And, it's gonna be bad, folks. And of course, I have some experience with ice storms because we had a major one, here in my area, several years ago, back in 2009. We had, I'm talking over 2 inches of ice, which is just unheard of. I mean, it's absolutely crazy amounts of ice. And we had, power outages for weeks and almost a month. I mean, we had people trapped, and we were actually trapped. I was actually trapped. So anyway, I want to get into preparedness and how we can prepare for events, and not just weather events, for events in general. A societal collapse, civil unrest. How we can prepare for anything and why it's sensible and reasonable to do so. I want to get into that in just a minute. First of all, though, I want to talk a little bit about this Department of Homeland Security stuff. I said I had some security state news, some security state information to talk about this evening on the show. And I do. I came across earlier today, this document from of course, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, my favorite federal department. But I will likely be writing an article over this and tying in some other articles that I've written about similar things in the past, and tying in some other documents and things, because I have a whole bunch of stuff that I can do on this. This is one of the biggest things that I've reported on, is the whole security state, see something, say something, Homeland Security, all these documents and releases and videos and things where Homeland Security is saying, report your neighbor if they have coffee grinders and goggles, report your neighbor if they're using a camera because it may be suspicious terrorist activity. And I'm not even joking, folks. I mean, you can look this stuff up, and I can give you the resources to look it up. I can give you the names of the documents. I can give you all sorts of stuff, anything you need to look this up. It is real stuff, and I've written articles on it before. I've, done the whole 9 yards. But anyway, this new document now coming out is about higher education institutions. Higher education institutions sounds very important, doesn't it? And of course, they're propping up this whole usual see something, say something, all of these ridiculous things that could be terrorist activity. I want to get into that. First of all, they start off by explaining the higher education situation. The higher education community in the United States consists of more than 11,000 higher education institutions that collectively serve more than 17 million students, employ more than 3.4 million faculty and staff, and have combined budgets approaching $360 billion. Higher education institutions range in size from small institutions with fewer than 100 students to large universities with tens of thousands of students and faculty occupying campuses the size of a small town or city. Institution grounds are generally open access with varying levels of security within the campus. Okay, so they start off by just a basic explanation of what they're talking about, I suppose, giving you a little bit of background information on the higher education institutions, and then they get into the potential indicators of terrorist activity at a higher education institution, at some sort of college, some sort of university is what they're talking about here. So let's just look here. Terrorist activity indicators are observable anomalies or incidents that may precede an attack. Indicators of an attack require immediate action may include the following. Oh my gosh, this sounds serious. Saying all of these following things might be indicators that a terrorist attack is about to go down. Well, let's just read in and see what some of these indicators might be. Wearing unusual, bulky clothing that might conceal suicide explosives or weapons. Well, that's a pretty loose, it's a pretty loose description there. So you're suspicious if you're wearing loose clothing that could possibly be hiding a bomb. So don't wear those baggy pants on the college campuses, kids. You listen up. You might be a terrorist if you do. So yeah, that's the first one, and obviously they don't get any better or any more reasonable. Let's see. Suspicious or illegally parked vehicles, near institution facilities, or where crowds gather. I mean, if it's illegally parked, it's illegally parked. But I don't know if Homeland Security should be developing these studies and these documents and these releases on these indicators of terrorist activities and talking about illegally parked vehicles. I mean, no telling how much taxpayer money has gone into putting this release out so that they can tell us to be on the lookout for illegally parked vehicles because it might be a terrorist driving them. Let's see what else might constitute terrorist activity. Unattended packages. If you have an unattended backpack, briefcase, or box that might, again, we're going back to that might contain explosives or hazardous materials. So you're telling me, if you, on a college campus, they like to call these higher education institutions, on a university campus, if you have unattended backpacks and briefcases, that's a sign of terrorist activity? To me, that would be one of the most common things. That's like saying if you walk into McDonald's and you see grease, you should be worried. Which you should be worried for your health, but, that's like saying if you walk into, if you walk into a music store and you see a guitar or a piano, you should be afraid. That's suspicious. I mean, unattended backpacks. And of course they're saying that might contain explosives. So you're just supposed to assume every time, basically, what they're saying here in this document from Homeland Security themselves, basically what they're saying is, if you see an unattended backpack on a college campus, you're supposed to automatically assume that there are explosives in it and that the owner of said backpack is going to blow up the entire campus and everyone on it, and you're supposed to run to the authorities. I mean, that's what they're saying. I don't know how to make it any more blatant than that. Suspicious packages or letters received by mail, okay, whatever. Here's an interesting one that we keep coming back to. Person possessing or using observation equipment, example, cameras, binoculars, night vision devices, near institution facilities or grounds over an extended period. So sorry, college kids, you can't take your selfies for Twitter out in front of, out on college. You can't take pictures with you and your friends. You can't take pictures of the college. You can't take pictures of the buildings. You can't use your binoculars. You can't go bird watching. God forbid we have peaceful bird watchers in this world, folks. We need to crack down on the bird watchers, according to Homeland Security. This is a serious issue. We need to crack down on those bird watchers because they are domestic terrorists, folks. Domestic terrorists, and we can't be having any of that domestic terrorism. We can't be having it, folks. So yeah, I mean, if you're using, they're saying night vision devices or cameras or binoculars. I mean, so if you're using a camera or binocular, or night vision device, I mean, you're a terrorist, according to the Department of Homeland Security, if you're using those things on a college campus, and even outside of a college campus, because, I've pointed out before on this show, and in some of my articles that I've written on this subject before, that there are other documents out there, DHS and FBI roll call releases and documents, that say if you are taking pictures of different things, there's one that says if you take pictures of notable buildings or iconic structures, I believe is the terminology that they use in the document, if you're taking pictures of iconic structures, that's supposed to be some sort of suspicious activity. That's terrorism, is what they're saying. So anyway, let's see here. People parking, standing, or loitering in the same area over an extended period with no reasonable explanation. Oh my God. College kids are loitering in the same area and they don't have a reasonable explanation for doing so? They must be terrorists. I mean, there's no other viable, solution to this strange equation. I mean, if college kids are standing in a parking lot gathered together and loitering, talking, then by all means, they must be terrorists. I mean, it's not just because that's what they do. They don't just, congregate. College people don't just congregate in, in the parking lot or something and talk and hang out and loiter. No, they never do that. A college student would never do that. What are you talking about? They must be terrorists. Goodness. Person discovered with maps, photos, or diagrams with institution or key facility components highlighted. Okay. So if you, sorry, freshmen, if you need a map of the place, you're SOL, because if you have it and you've got stuff marked on it and somebody finds out about it, you go into jail, buddy. You go into Guantanamo Bay because you, sir, are a terrorist. Employees whose working behavior has changed or who are working more irregular hours. Okay, if you're working irregular hours, I guess you're a terrorist now. Let's see here. I think that pretty much ends the list. But as you can see, absolutely absurd. And of course, they go on in the document to outline all kinds of different crap, and then they go on to say that the employees and students and the public should be encouraged to report any suspicious activity, any of these things that might be going on that might constitute a threat. And of course, the things that they're saying might constitute a threat on a college campus is unattended backpacks, people loitering in the parking lot, people wearing baggy clothing. I mean, these are things that are normal college. I mean, a college student. Just picture a college student. They're loitering in the parking lot. They left their bag unattended, and they're wearing baggy clothes. I mean, by that standard, by the standard set in this Department of Homeland Security document, they are the top. They're the top terrorist on the CIA watch list. I mean, they're the most dangerous person you could possibly run into. But of course, it's all just hype. It's all just security state BS, paranoia. They're hyping it all up. I mean, it's just absolutely absurd. It's just absolutely absurd. And again, I've gone over all of this stuff before, because we have, again, the photography issue. That's one I brought up before. The coffee grinders and goggles. I wrote an article that got picked up by several big websites a while back, and that was DHS says coffee grinders, says report neighbors who have coffee grinders and goggles, or something like that. That was the title of the article. And I was talking about another one of these documents from Homeland Security and the FBI, where they're basically saying that if people have coffee grinders and goggles and coffee filters in their house, those three items are suspicious because they could be using them to make weapons of mass destruction. And I just I don't understand why this is going on. Of course, I mean, they just want to turn us all against one another. I mean, that's basically it. They want, the elites, the powers that be, they want us to be so afraid to walk out of our front door. Because they don't want to, they don't want us to be engaging as human beings. They don't want us to be engaging with one another and being normal human beings and leading normal lifestyles. They don't want us to be normal and have normal social, I mean, they don't want any of that. They want us to be so paranoid to step outside of our own home because we're afraid a terrorist might be right around the corner. Al-Qaeda might be right around the corner. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. It started out, many ages ago that, it was the neocons who were hyping up this Al-Qaeda paranoia. And of course now we know it's both sides. The fake liberals, the fake conservatives, they're all the Democrats and the Republicans, the donkeys and the elephants, the conservatives and the liberals, the right and the left, all of the descriptive terms that can be used to describe this ridiculous two-party false system that we live in. They're all on the same page. They're all paid off by the same people, which on that note, I actually want to address for a moment, go off on a tangent for a moment and address the fact that I am working on an article over that. Now, I know this is a topic that most of my listeners are going to know about already. Obviously, we all know the two-party system is a big farce. We all know that the whole system's a scam. So a lot of my listeners are going to know about this already. But I like to step outside of, I don't like preaching to the choir. I like, addressing these serious issues outside of the normal people who are normally going to already know about this anyway, who are normally going to be listening to this kind of stuff, who are normally going to be studying this kind of stuff anyway, who already know it. I don't want to just preach to the choir. I want to talk to people and inform people who don't know this stuff, because that's what's important, is to get the people on board who don't know what's going on, who don't understand, who still live in this two-party system, who still live in the farce, the false paradigm, this whole messed up world where it's left versus right, it's Democrat versus Republican, it's the Steelers versus the whatever another rivalry football team is, or I don't even know if the Steelers are football. Shows you how much I care about sports, but Coke versus Pepsi. Everything is a two rivalry thing, and that's an important aspect of society. But anyway, I'm writing an article over the whole system, the whole two-party system, how it's all a scam. I'm going through all of the points about both being paid off by the same people. Of course, we have Goldman Sachs and Monsanto, and, the Democrats and Republicans, are, a lot of your Democrat and Republican congressmen and, presidents and, things have been on the same payrolls for Goldman Sachs, for Monsanto, for, all of these big major elitist corporations, the big conglomerates, the big evil entities. So we have that, and then of course we have the differences and the similarities between the two, which are very, very narrow. And there's just all kinds of different points. And I've been working on this piece for a little while now, but I want to make it perfect. I want to literally give one of the best rundowns, one of the best analyses of this whole situation, the whole two-party system that has been done to date. Because again, I want to reach people and I want to make people understand who don't already know this, that it's a big scam. It's a big farce. There is no Democrat versus Republican. They're the same freaking party, basically. They're the same freaking party. They're bought off by the same corporations. They're controlled by the same people. Nothing changes. We only have minuscule little changes that go on, that take place, when one gets into office as opposed to the other. But either way, the people get screwed. Individual rights are overlooked. And the whole 9 yards. So regardless of what side of the fence you're actually on, regardless of if you actually consider yourself, more conservative or more liberal or more libertarian, more anarchist, more, socialist leaning, whatever you consider yourself, it is important to know that the two major parties and all political parties, and that's another thing I'm going into in the article, all political parties in general are just bad. And it really, this came to, I had sort of a vision the other day, and that's why I started writing this on political parties. Because I have in the past said that, it's okay to at least support the third parties, the Green Party or the Libertarian Party or the Socialist USA Party or the Constitution Party, or, whatever side of the fence you're on, liberal or conservative or libertarian, whatever, there are third parties that address everything. The Justice Party, all kinds of different parties. And I've said before that it's okay to support those parties, but I've really come to the conclusion that it's not. And I'm really, really realizing how detrimental political parties are to the entire process, to the entire political process, to everything. I'm realizing that, and I'm realizing how political parties have been really the key component in bringing down our entire political system and making it so screwed up and getting us in this gridlock where nothing happens, and allowing the corporations and the big elites at the top to take over, and the banks. I really had a sort of a vision. It all came to me sort of the other day. I guess I've always really known this, but it really came to me the other day, and it was all purified and codified in my mind, and I really want to get it down on paper and explain the whole situation. But anyway, so look for that to come on newculturalnarrative.blogspot.com sometime very soon. I'm going to be breaking down the whole two-party system and breaking down the whole political party mess in general. So anyway, there's that. And I know I got off on a huge tangent there. Well, we only have a few minutes left. We got about 10 or so minutes left, a little more than 10 minutes left. So I want to take these last few minutes to talk about what I said I was going to talk about, and that is prepping. Now, I wanted to talk about this evening, because there is a big storm. There is a big winter storm moving into my area. Of course, I broadcast, as many of you know, out of the great state of Kentucky, right here in the Ohio Valley. I'm actually, excuse me, folks. Voice is cracked a little bit this evening. I'm actually not too far outside of Louisville. I'm outside of Louisville. I can't just run down the street and I'm in Louisville. But I'm not too far from Louisville. I live way out in the sticks, way out in the middle of nowhere. So none of you are ever going to find out where I live. But yeah, we've got a big ice storm coming in this weekend, and they're saying, we could get up to an inch or more of ice accumulation, and some parts of the area could get 6 to 8 inches of snow, they're saying even, and other parts are going to get a mix of sleet and freezing rain and snow, and it's just going to be a big mess. And right now, for my specific area, for my county and my area specifically, I think they're saying we could get a lot of the freezing rain, which is terrible. If you know anything about the weather, you know that the freezing rain is just the worst of it all. Because, the sleet, at least, it's in little pellets, and it falls to the ground in little pellets, and it accumulates. But at least with the sleet, you can get a little bit of traction because it's in pellets. The freezing rain, however, comes down, and it hits the ground, and it spreads out and freezes into a solid sheet of ice. And that's what coats the power lines, that's what coats the trees, and causes all of the power lines to sag and crack, causes all of the tree limbs to crack, causes all the huge mess and chaos and nastiness that we saw back in 2009. Now, I realize down south, they just recently had a big ice storm that was big for them, but this is nothing compared to what we had back in 2009. And even if we get what they're calling for this weekend, it's going to be nothing like we had back in 2009. 2009 was something that was very unexpected for us, and for those of you who live outside of the Ohio Valley region, which I would assume a lot of you do, I know I have a lot of listeners from different places. I even have listeners outside of the United States, but for those of you who are outside of the Ohio Valley area, the 2009 ice storm was absolutely horrible. And I can remember it, first of all, I think we got over 2 inches of ice, which is just unheard of. It's an unheard of amount of ice. It's way too much. It was all freezing rain, and of course it accumulated on the power lines. And just to give you an idea, for me, personally, my family and I, we were without power. First of all, we were trapped at the end of our road. We had no way to get out, because there were so many trees, limbs, and things down all over the place. And we're pretty, handy when it comes to stuff like that. Usually when there's a storm, we'll go out, we'll get the chainsaws, and we'll get the, everything we need to get, and we'll move stuff out of the way and get stuff taken care of. But we were trapped, at the end of our road because there were so many trees down for, 12 days. And we were without power for 14 days. Which it may not seem like a lot, but really it is. I mean, to be without power in sub-zero temperatures, for 2 weeks straight, and to be trapped. You can't get out, you can't go do anything. You're basically landlocked in the middle of nowhere for 12 days. So that's basically what happened to us. But luckily, we survived. A lot of people, there were a lot of deaths from that ice storm. Because people got trapped in their houses, or people got trapped here, people got trapped there, they couldn't get out, they didn't have the means to get out, or they didn't have the resources, they didn't have anything they needed, they ran out of gasoline, they ran out of fuel, they ran out of heat, they ran out of this, they ran out of that, they ran out of food. All sorts of people died during this incident. But we prepare. We prepare. And this, the reason I'm bringing this up is, of course, we have this event coming up this week with the weather this weekend. But I'm not talking about just the weather. Because that's sort of something we can compare to everything on a wider scale. Because that wasn't expected. They were calling for a little bit of freezing rain, a little bit of ice, a little bit of snow maybe during that situation. But we wound up waking up the next morning to 2 inches of ice, 2 inches plus of ice, coated power lines, trees down everywhere, devastation, people are landlocked, can't get out. Everything's absolutely terrible. So we weren't expecting it. Just like when and if this country fails. When and if we have civil unrest, massive protests breaking out in the streets, like is happening in tons of other countries across the world right now. When we have civil unrest breaking out in this country, when we have protests, massive stuff on the street, when we have martial law scenario, people aren't going to see that coming either. It's going to be just as shocking to them as that ice storm was. Or just as shocking to them as any sort of weather event. It's just going to be just as shocking. So that's why I always say, prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. And the reason I say that is because I like to look on the positive side of things. I really do. I like to stay positive, and I like to be happy, and, I like to joke around, and I like to have a good time, and I like to live life, not in fear. I don't like to live life in fear and paranoia. Oh God, this is gonna happen, society is going to complete crap, everything's bad, there's, unrest is breaking out across the world, our economy is failing, this is happening, global unrest. I don't like to, I like to be a realist and say, yeah, that stuff is happening. I won't deny that stuff's happening, but I don't like to harp on it. And I don't like to harp on the bad. I don't like to sit there and complain about it and worry about it all the time. And one way to not worry about it is to be prepared for it. Just be prepared. Make sure you have supplies. Make sure you are, and it's not just about being physically prepared. I'm not saying that, the only thing you gotta do to get prepared for society to collapse is go out and buy 600 guns and a bunch of ammo and, $7,000 worth of Campbell's chicken noodles. I mean, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, Be mentally prepared. Be psychologically, spiritually prepared. Just be ready for anything life throws at you. And that can be a good motto to live by, period. Just to get through everyday life. Be ready for everything life throws at you. And be ready to handle it with a calm, positive, and sensible attitude. And then you won't be one of the people running around not knowing what to do when something happens. And again, we have these people who die in their homes because they're without power for 2 or 3 weeks during an ice storm. What's going to happen to the same kinds of people when civil unrest breaks out? When there are perhaps foreign troops or domestic troops on the ground in the streets? When there are, Black Hawk helicopters circling the whole place? When there are people out in the streets rioting and looting and stealing and crimes going on a massive scale? What are people going to do then? Are people going to be prepared for this? Unfortunately, a lot of people are not going to be prepared for this, but you can be, and I can be, because we know that we need to prepare for the worst. Always. Always in life. And again, I'm not just talking about an ice storm. And I'm not just talking about civil unrest or martial law or a government takeover or a foreign invasion from North Korea or World War III. Talking about everything in life. Be prepared for the worst things to happen. Prepare yourself mentally, physically, psychologically for the worst possible things that can happen. Be prepared to handle them, but hope for the best. Hope for the good things to happen. And always look on the good side. Always look on the bright side, the positive side of things. Well, we are quickly running out of time here. We've only got a couple of minutes left here on the show. My bumper music is probably going to start playing here for too long. I want to thank everyone who took the time to tune in this evening to the show. Don't forget to tune back in Monday if you're into guns, if you're into everything gun related. That's the Monday show, is Gun Talk Show. We talk about news from the firearms industry, things related to guns, guns in society, gun crime, gun-related news stories, again, industry news, products, all kinds of different stuff on the Monday show related to guns. And then tune in next Friday for the regular political show again, the regular news show, the regular society analysis show. So anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at ALN845 and at Liberty Battles. Like me on Facebook. Look at facebook.com/Liberty Battles. Thanks for listening tonight, and God bless.